Hey everybody, yeah, we're back. We're back again. It's February at the time of this recording.
Happy New Year.
Yes, happy New Year. The last time we had an episode was 2020. Hey, remember that crazy year, eh?
Yeah, we thought
Well,
everything would end in 2021.
yeah, well,
1st of Jan.
mm,
It's not.
it's carried on in quite a what's the word? Interesting manner. Yeah, an interesting manner. But yeah, if you're listening to us and you've never listened to us before, and this is your first time listening, because you know when you want to pick up a new podcast in 2021, this is the Second Nature podcast. I am G Ray.
I'm Aramide.
Yeah, that's Aramide. We normally have another third co-host, Anna, but she can't be here today. She's a bit occupied, so it's just the two of us today. Hope you don't mind. Hope we can. I was going to say provide the entertainment, but we're not here to entertain. That's not what we do here. We're here to talk
No.
about serious issues and offer the Christian perspective on.
And
Right, we
laugh
make it.
along the way.
Yeah, and laugh along the way. I was going to say, but
That
I'm making
happens
it
a
sound
lot.
so serious that it's really, really not the kind of pod that people want to listen to. But yes, we are the Second Nature podcast. We have a YouTube channel, so subscribe to us on that. We have an Instagram, we have a Twitter. We also
Follow.
have a clothing line called New Nature Clothes, so follow us on
New
that. On
Nature wear? I should have worn my New Nature top because then I could have been like, see.
I should have worn my New
No.
Nature hoodie because it's cold in my bedroom. So,
Oh.
so follow us on New Nature Clo on Instagram. Check us out on our website as well, newnatureclo.co.uk. Yeah, is there anything else? I would say follow our personal Instagrams, but I'm not about that. So, yeah.
Y- y- Yes, you are.
Ah,
He loves the follows. It's not J underscore something 95.
yeah, you don't even
You
know
find him on Twitter. I don't. I don't.
exactly.
You can follow me, Aramide underscore Y. We've not done that in a while, actually.
No, because we want everyone to follow God and Jesus. They're the. Why are you rolling your eyes?
That,
That's the
that's of course true.
that's the first and foremost person that we give glory to. It's less of us and more of him.
Come on, see this bogus
Oh,
humility. I'm
wow.
kidding. I'm not. It's
You sound like
fraudulent.
some. Well, I was going to say you sound like something from Clubhouse, but we'll get onto that uh, as we go on. So yeah, obviously,
I
guys, we
love
haven't,
Clubhouse.
and yeah, I know you do. So we haven't been recording in 2021. We haven't put anything out. I have seen that people are still listening to our old episodes, so that's great. We thank you guys for all your support. Um, yeah, and hopefully in 2021 we grow. You guys help us grow here. You guys help us give us new ideas, and we have more amazing guests because 2020 we had a lot of amazing guests.
Really,
Yeah,
really, really good people.
so yeah, let's hope we can continue on doing that. But yeah, so January, what happened in
Okay.
January?
January was one of those months that has a lot of mixed feelings because it feels like it's never ending. And I
Mm.
think when we're all at home because Bojo's got us locked up again, rightfully so. Um, rightfully so. It was just long. You have to make that pace stretch. So it already
Mm.
comes with, and
Not
it's
me though.
cold outside. Okay, Jerry.
No, it's not because I have money. It's because I get paid on the last day of each month. So
Yeah, no, my work paid us like I think it was like the 19th or something, and we had to stretch it to the 25th and then fast. And when it got to the 25th, I was like, this would technically be payday. And then I was like, oh, this is not payday at all when I checked my account. So January, and it's cold. It's so cold. I think being indoors all the time, I didn't go out often until one day I looked outside and it was covered in snow. It was like
mm,
-degrees. I was like, wow, because I keep my bedroom very warm.
yeah.
So January already comes with its mess.
Mm. On top of
And
like the
then,
21-day fast that people do in January, and then in a
yeah.
lockdown when you're working from home, that's difficult. That Daniel fast to call it.
Oh my God. You open the fridge, there's just,
You're thinking, all
I,
this food is now going to go to waste. I mean, I'm sure people didn't let the food go to waste, but
no, I think it's important as stewards of this earth that we don't let the food go to waste. In fact, we utilize the resources that God has given to us and we utilize them well. That's my stance, waste not, want not, whatever people say. There are people all over the world who don't have food, who don't have clothing or water or shelter during this time. And who am I to throw away the food that I have cooked using the resources that God has blessed me with?
Right.
I don't
Okay.
know why I felt the need to overcompensate.
Okay. Yes, you did overcompensate. Yeah. So at the start of 2021, I think the earliest thing that I can remember is the countdown to Joe Biden becoming president. Um,
Yes.
yeah, people were counting down the days of Trump to go. I don't know if any president has divided Christians so much as Donald Trump has, and the inauguration of Joe Biden was sort of like people thought the Antichrist was becoming the president.
Legit. I
Yeah.
think it was actually scary because even after it was announced that Joe Biden was going to be the president, I was seeing preachers. I don't know if you're gonna
Mm.
name names today. Preachers, kidding. Like Christians with large followings. I'm not talking about the people of the word because that's gonna be we'd be here for 5 hours discussing how they reacted, but especially Christians were like, "You guys ain't ready. Things will change. It's a lie.
Yeah.
You thought you saw? You ain't seen nothing yet." So you saw a lot of people saying, guys, just wait. Honestly, he would not be the president. He would not be the president. He would not be the president. If you believe that he's going to be the president, you're not a Christian, you don't have faith, you don't believe in God, you don't know that God can work miracles. And then the day came and it was just crickets.
Yep. Yep. Literally. There's people who are prophesying about Donald Trump winning.
Prophesying.
Um, yeah, there was a lot of heavy prophecies before the results of the election, and then after the election, it was like people were in denial. It was like the four stages of grief, and denial being the first one. And people say, "Well, listen, he's still going to win. They're going to overturn it," because everyone talked about election fraud, collusion, and all that, voting
Yeah.
systems being destroyed or not working properly. And I thought,
Votes being
yeah,
flipped. So
yep, yep,
Trump votes being flipped to
to
Biden.
Biden, yeah,
Yeah.
it became a circus act. That's what I would say, and it came to the point where Donald Trump, unfortunately, incited violence. People would say that he didn't, but he most definitely did because when he was in his crowds and his crowds listened, and when he said the words such as "You have to take your country, you can't show weakness," um, "They'll run you over if you don't do X, Y, Z." That caused people to storm the Capitol, and that's how we started 2021. People stormed the
With
Capitol
violence.
with
With
violence.
violence, yeah.
Yes.
And I think for me it was like when obviously when it got out of hand, they didn't, of course people condemned the actions, but I don't think the condemnation that I don't think the people that supported Trump and were all about, we have to fight, we have to do this, we have to fight and fight, especially Christians, they didn't have the same energy towards speaking against what we saw, because they were like, yeah, of course what happened at the Capitol was wrong, but, and as far as I'm concerned, if you have anything to say and you use the word but, what you've said before is automatically being cancelled.
Yep.
And it was shocking. And I think how, especially in Christendom, it was almost seen as if we need government to uphold Christianity, not uphold Christianity in terms of like they embody the Christian faith, but in terms of like if the government says Christianity is a bad religion or they have anything bad to say about Christianity, the bedrock of our entire religion and what we believe in is going to fall apart. And I
Hmm.
was like, when has Christianity ever needed government to sustain it, is my
Ooh,
thing, because the
that's a
way
word
people were
right there.
talking about, that's the
Because
truth,
when we
because
think
the way
of
people,
the book of Acts in the early church, they were persecuted beyond
constantly.
comprehension. They were like people getting put on a cross upside down, people getting stoned, and that was from government rule. The Roman Empire was not in favor of Christianity. They wanted
Hmm.
to control and orchestrate how they wanted the death and burial and the resurrection of Jesus Christ to go. They didn't even want the resurrection getting out. But our God is works wonders. He works miracles. But yeah, as you were saying,
Yeah, yeah, and I think there was this kind of general fear that a lot of Christians were operating in, as if, you know, like you said, Biden is Antichrist. If he comes into power, anything that is Christian about the United States of America, which really isn't a lot, anything that is still Christian will go, will
Yeah.
disappear. And I was like, okay, so if you look at all the 44th president, or the presidents they've had prior, do you mean that have they all been antichrists? Have they
Mm.
also been Christian? Because I'm like, if Trump is who we are nailing our Christianity upon,
Mm-hmm.
beloved, oh, you know what, actually, if he was to win the second term, he's
Yeah.
going to have to step down eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he does, are we going to be doing all this prayer and fasting, robo, let's laugh, ha 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 ha. I think of the laugh. I think of Kenneth Copeland's laugh. I'm sorry, I think of that laugh. It scares me. Is that what we're going to do when we get another president, when they get another president? Sorry, that's not Trump. So my thing is, what makes this president so divisive amongst Christians? Because anytime I hear about Joe Biden, I hear the word, oh, he's pro-abortion. And I was like, okay, that's not the only thing that we hinge our Christianity upon, in terms of, okay, if Trump is not pro-abortion,
Yeah.
is that all we look for in our presidents? Does that
Yeah.
mean that he's the one that God has appointed because of that policy? But I think it divided not just Christians, but it divided churches. It was, honestly, I think the behavior of certain Christians was honestly embarrassing, and shameful,
Yeah.
the
I
way they
think
regarded him.
there's a few things. I remember having a conversation with my friend, and he was talking about Joe Biden. He's a Christian, by the way, and he was talking about Joe Biden and how he's coming into office. And when Joe Biden had already administered a few people in positions of power, he said, "Oh, it started. Here we go." And I thought, "What do you mean it started?" And he said, "We want the best conditions possible to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ." And I said, Matthew 28:19 says, "Go out to all the nations and preach the gospel in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." It doesn't talk about the conditions that those nations are going to be in. It just says go and do it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It didn't say it was going to be hard. It just says do it. So if we now are so bothered about the conditions, and if the conditions deter us from preaching the gospel, then do we really believe that the thing that we're trying to bring to people is worth, this is where people say you're being extreme, dying for, or being inconvenienced, or being uncomfortable by? Um, the conditions in America still allow you to preach the gospel. Um,
Yeah.
in most parts of the world, they allow you to preach the gospel. I put that in quotation marks. So most parts of the world, but my thing is, like you said, Donald Trump, obviously when he was president, and I don't want to talk about him for too long because this is not a Donald Trump episode.
We already did that
Obviously,
one.
yeah, he gave money to the church. Obviously, he proclaimed himself to be Christian. But I think that the biggest divide was him saying he was Christian and then his actions. So people were looking at his character. So there was Christians, half of Christians were looking at his character and saying this just doesn't line up. Half of other
Yeah.
Christians were looking at some of his actions that he was doing towards the church and saying, yeah, but look what he's doing. He's giving us money. He's affirming Christ. He's holding the Bible, even though he's doing it upside down and he couldn't quote any of the scriptures or any of his favorite books. So it was just like, well, what do you see in him, or what do you want to see that you like? And that's what people are attaching themselves to. um
Yeah. And one thing what stuck out to me the most was the fact that as Christians, we're supposed to speak out for the vulnerable people in our communities, the people that we see being persecuted.
mhm,
But when some of his policies were directly aimed at persecuting other people, and we can talk about other religions and we can, define people by what they believe in. But at the end of the day, as Christians, we're supposed to be on the right side in terms of standing for people who are being persecuted against. Christians didn't really have an awful lot to say about that.
no.
It's kind of everyone just kind of turned their blind eye to, everyone just turned a blind eye to it, in terms of, to a point where certain groups of communities, especially like Muslims and stuff in America, were essentially being treated almost like second class citizens. It's like, at that point we didn't see, oh, let's stand up for our neighbors. And through that we can introduce them to Christ. Let's do this, let's do that. There was silence amongst Christian. I mean, I've not seen any pastors preach about it. Maybe there are, but I've not. The same people that were affirming Donald Trump, I didn't see them speak against some of his actions that were honestly, some of them quite dangerous and they're quite wrong. If you hear about it happening in other areas of the world, you say, oh, that's not a right thing to do. Actually, we need to speak against it. But then when it then came time for him to go, is now like, oh, we're going to be persecuted. And I'm like, no, this self-preservation thing
Yeah.
isn't very Christian.
Yeah, I think the reason why we're talking about this isn't even really to do with Donald Trump. It's more to do with the leaders in the Christian kingdom who prophesied the way they prophesied. Because obviously the Bible talks about that we have to test everything.
Yeah,
And obviously now that we know the results and we know physically in reality what's actually happened and what they've said, like where do we go from here? Um, and it almost allows non-believers to go, well, look at what they're doing. They're saying that this is going to happen and it's not happening, so it can't be real. And
they
it's
were
not like
so
we,
loud, Jerome.
yeah, I
They
know,
were
and it's
so
not
loud.
it's
They were
not like
doing
we put
prophetic push-ups. There was, oh, it was
it's
so
not like we're
loud.
putting Christianity in jeopardy because people have come and gone and said a load of things, prophesied a load of things, and they've been wrong about it. But when we're in a world that's filled with fake news and Christians who are meant to be people who go after the truth and who walk and live in truth, we have to be very careful about what we say and what we put out into the world, because I'm not saying that the world should look to us, because, well, they should look to us, but they don't, because they're thinking,
I
well,
don't know
you
what they're
guys,
talking
yeah,
about.
you guys aren't any different to what I'm hearing other people talk about. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, moving on from America and back to the UK, we are
Is,
still in a
is our
national,
situation even better?
yeah, we're in a national lockdown, with no end in sight. It keeps the
Mm-mm.
dates keep being pushed back. People, you know, teaching from home like my fiance is. People still working from home like you are, Ramade.
You gonna talk
Um,
about it a bit more?
about my fiance,
Someone got engaged. I
I
mean,
think I mentioned
someone.
it in the last episode. I'm not sure.
Oh my. Oh, that was in December.
Yeah, that was in December. Yeah,
Time has gone so
I
quickly.
know we're in February now. Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah, um, yeah. So obviously here in the UK we're in lockdown, but places of worship are still open, so we still
That's
get to
right.
see each other in church, which is great. But do you think people have church fatigue since lockdown because they've been watching a load of services online, so they might not be willing to come in?
The
No, I'm not talking about the
numbers.
physical. I'm talking about the online people. I can imagine the people who work in the churches. The what's it called? The people who the unspoken heroes that work behind the scenes to make the
The choir
yeah,
team,
the
the
services
production
run.
team, the
Yeah,
temple cleaning people,
yeah.
all of that.
But what about the people who watch services online?
So as part in our church, I say my church, in our church, I'm part of the production team and I look out to live streaming, and sometimes I look at the views to say, okay, like how can we improve it to engage people more? And the views are just steadily decreasing.
Mm,
Obviously you have the consistent people, but I think for a lot of Christians, especially those who are born into a Christian home, going to church is part of what you do. On a
hmm.
Sunday, you go to church. On a Saturday, you clean. That's
Yeah,
that's what we do in my house anyway. And then when church went away, I think initially people felt lost in terms of what do I do with all this free time? So obviously people, you didn't have to get up in the morning to get ready. You could literally just roll over, go on YouTube, wherever your service has been hosted and watch it, right? But honestly, after a while, it doesn't bang.
yeah.
And I'm not saying the word doesn't, but that kind of, okay, you're sitting at home, you're watching it. What differentiates that from Netflix?
That's
Except,
true.
well, Netflix, you can watch all sorts of things, right? But in your church,
Yeah,
you'll see your pastor stand at the pulpit again and preach. And of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's what we have to do with what we've got and what's going on at the moment. But honestly, I think people just aren't interested in it.
yeah.
I think we are a group of people who are constantly stimulated. We're constantly stimulated, whether it's with the news, whether it's with music, podcast, books. We always need something to take our attention. But when you're forced, not forced, but when you have to sit down and look at something and actively take it in,
Hmm.
that's not something that I think a lot of us have the capacity to do
Yeah.
the way we used to, because normally when you get to church, you can't just roll on the floor and just ignore your pastor and text your friend in the middle of the service, because you're within a community of people. And even now that churches are reopened, of course with limited capacity, I'm still seeing a lot of empty chairs, because for Wednesday service normally you get about 100 people in church normally. Why am I seeing 9? So it's kind of, people have just gotten accustomed to
To
not going to
online.
church.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think it's
and also,
important
oh
that
yeah,
we have to remember that we actually need to physically meet up. I think I can't remember where it says in the Bible. It says, "Don't forsake the physical gathering of the saints," because people will get accustomed to sitting at home, and I believe the devil would absolutely love that, for people to just sit at home and online. But it's only when you come in physically where you realize that you actually needed to be here to begin with.
yeah,
You interact with people. Um, the screen barrier isn't there anymore, so people can see you face to face. They can lock eyes with you and see you and talk to you, and you can share your burdens and your struggles, which just doesn't isn't the same as when you're talking on the phone or when you're talking over Zoom. Even as we're doing this podcast, it's not really the same doing it over Zoom as when you're like in person. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad that they kept the churches open. When I first announced it, I did think, I thought, we're in a national lockdown. Are you saying that you're allowing people from? You said you don't want people from households to mix, but that's all churches, churches, mosques,
Legit.
synagogues. That's all they are. Different households mixing. So I thought it's a bit counterproductive. But I can see that obviously the government does believe that the religious community does need to adhere to their physical gatherings. But I also suspect that they did it because they want them to take the vaccine. So if you give them an olive branch, then maybe they'll be more willing to take the vaccine. So
Um, I mean, it's shocked me how, because when we initially heard that churches were gonna go back, I thought, oh nah, these people don't care. They're gonna float the rules. They want to see their friends. They
yeah,
want to roll on the ground. They want to dance to the front to put their offering in the offering basket.
not all
No one
churches
wants to
are
give
like that,
online.
Aramide. Okay, some churches are a bit
Okay, I
different.
can only talk about my experiences. That's why I assumed it was going to be like. So when everyone came and people actually like sat down and kept their masks on, I was actually quite surprised. So yeah, I think that kind of changed my opinion a bit, because I didn't give Christians enough credit. But one thing I definitely think has contributed to less people coming to church is the fact that people are just watching other churches.
Mm.
Um,
Are you doing
I
that? Are
think,
you watching other churches at home? You that's listening right now? You listening to other churches? 5
yeah,
churches. We're gonna speak about the pastor of one of the other churches that I imagine people are watching a lot. Um,
yeah. I mean, I don't watch. I mean, during my free time, I more like to. I've been getting into this phase of like really watching a lot of apologetics videos and things like that. That's why I'm enjoying at the moment. But I know, like for a lot of people, if you go to a very specific type of church that's preaching in a very specific type of way, when you get something different, it's like a shiny new toy, and they're still preaching the same word, but I know that a lot of people are kind of rethinking what kind of church they want to go into, especially if you feel like your church might be a bit restrictive or have certain cultures that you just want to break away from. So, yeah, I think a lot of people are just finding different churches, and that's a good thing in terms of like you getting the word slightly differently, but that also shouldn't replace the actual gathering of the saints. And in terms of people within your communities that know you by name and they know your face and they can ask about you and they can challenge you and they can cover you. But I think people have just gotten to a point where it's like, "Oh, if you're going to be online, might as well watch someone else.
yeah, yeah. Um, But to go back to the vaccine thing, um, are you going to be taking the vaccine, or do you know anyone who's had it?
I think my parents have had it. But honestly, if Boris says,
You can't
if you take
travel
this
if
vaccine,
you don't.
I don't care. If you
Yeah,
take this vaccine, you can travel. I will take it in both of my kneecaps. I will take it.
he said, "Hook me up."
Trying to inject this thing. I'm trying to leave. Um, not to,
we've gone
damage other
from
people's health
nobody.
systems.
Yeah, we've gone from no one's taking this vaccine, no one's taking it, to slowly more and more people are taking this vaccine. I know people have taken it. I know young people have taken it
I
because
was never against it, to be
yeah,
honest.
neither was I.
We
Well,
studied
obviously,
biology in uni. We
yeah,
can't be flawed or misled by fake news,
yeah,
fraudulent news, incorrect news,
yeah,
non-factual news, anecdotal news. We cannot be led by any of those.
yeah. I
I
mean, when
knew
most of our
I want
degree
it.
was when most of our degree was heavily reading papers and justifying why these papers might be legitimate or not. I think when you listen to things that are quite outrageous or basic GCSE science, you just have to think, nah, that's a big no no. But yeah, I think the vaccine thing is obviously starting to blow over now, because they're rolling it out. But the government are quite
Yeah.
slow. But I won't berate them for it. They're trying their best. But 100,000 people dead in the UK is quite shocking. The fact that the UK had more uh, new COVID cases per capita than any other country in the world is
And we're
crazy.
supposed to be in the middle of a lockdown.
Yeah.
And also, one other thing I think people really aren't talking about is the misuse of words when we talk about vaccinations.
Mm,
If you've had one jab, you are not vaccinated yet. Yes,
hmm.
you've had one jab, you need both to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So when they say, oh, we've had this many people vaccinated, I'm like, no, you haven't. You haven't, because I don't think they've gone around they got
The
to the second
second,
round of things. I
no,
think it was supposed to be 6 weeks in between, then they extended it to 12 weeks. And I'm like, the science isn't sciencing, whoever
the
told you
math
this
is not
advice
mathing.
is wrong. So yeah, I don't think, obviously, I don't know if people have had their two jabs yet. Um, but I remember when I saw the stats, because there was a point I just stopped listening to the news and I saw six figures of deaths in the UK. And I said, this cannot be real. We are an
Mm,
island.
yeah,
We're
an
actually an
island
island. This cannot
with
be
a
real.
healthcare system, with a free healthcare system at that, um,
Funded by the people.
funded by the
Um,
people. Yeah.
it was shocking, absolutely shocking. And I think it's easy to point fingers, and I absolutely do point fingers, yes, but that won't bring back the people that have died. And I think when you see these figures whilst we're all in lockdown, it makes you think, okay, surely it's not just the government at this point,
Mm.
um, because are
There's
people still
institutions
having
that's
raves?
yeah, there's institutions that have clearly failed, and then there's just the general British public. We're probably all guilty of breaking the rules, in some manner or form, some more than others. But that's just, I believe that's British culture, um, and that probably needs changing. But it's very hard to change the culture of the British people.
They
Um,
don't want to
but
change.
yeah, we're not we ain't here for that. Um, I'm just gonna switch the topic to a video that we watched before we actually started recording of a pastor who was berating musicians. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Because when I watched it, obviously I have a lot of musician friends who play instruments in different churches or who
Hmm.
play for artists, and uh, they were not impressed at all. If you don't know what we're talking about, by the time this is out, I'm sure that it would have gone round a few times on social media.
I think I've seen that pastor share a similar message before in the past.
Oh, really? I think it's the first time I'm seeing it. I don't know his name. I don't know the church that he's. I believe he's in the UK because the way he was talking about UK musicians, I believe he's in the UK. Um, but basically, just to like give you the gist of it, he was saying that musicians should stop asking to be paid. Um, they should just do the work for the work of the Lord. Um, that £60 that they get here and there, is that all that they're worth? When the pastor claimed that he bought musicians cars, which is worth more than £60. It's several thousands of pounds.
Is that what
Um,
he claimed? I thought
yeah.
he. Oh, okay. I got a different message from the way he said it.
Oh, what did he say? What did
How
you
I
interpret?
interpreted it was how I interpreted it was, before he said the £60, the 10K thing or whatever, he said, why don't you pray for someone else to bless you? And I was thinking, back in my mind, I was thinking, are these people you're exploiting the ones that are
Yeah,
blessing you, quote
yeah, yeah,
unquote?
yeah,
That was my frame of thought. But then he was like, I could get you this. Or is it 10K you want? I don't
yeah.
know. From what I got from it was kind of like, he was basically saying, I could have blessed you with something that was worth 10K, but it's that
Yeah.
£60 you're chasing after. Either way, it just seems like a front for exploitation.
Yeah.
Of
I
course,
understand if you're at your home church and you're playing an instrument because that's your home church and you're serving the community that you're in. But when another church is asking you to come and play for them, why would you do that for free? And people say, "Oh, you're exploiting the kingdom of God." And I would give the analogy of if you have if you're in a church and you have an electrical problem, but you have no electricians in your church. Yeah, if you had an electrician in your church and you asked him, he could probably sort that out for you. He might do that for free. He might not because that's his business. But if
yeah.
you don't have one and you ask for one because you're going to outsource it, are you now going to ask that electrician to do it for free, especially when that's his full time job? You're not going to do that. So why are you asking musicians to do the same thing? It it feels like you're not. It's not even rewarding. You're not paying people for doing the job that they're doing.
Yeah. And for me, how I see it is two things, especially for people who play like musical instruments. It's not something that you learn in a day. It's a craft that people master for many,
Yeah,
many, many years.
hone
And when
over
you
time.
pay them, yeah, and when you pay them, you don't just pay them for that performance, but you also pay them for that experience.
Hmm.
Um, Same way if you want to do like really nice like photography thing to have someone take pictures of you, you're not just paying them for they were there for you. If they were there with you for 2 hours, you wouldn't pay them, okay, £10 an hour, £20 you go. No,
Mm-mm.
you pay
Shout
them
out
more than
to
that.
Lois Kamalafi, amazing
Come on.
photographer.
She's amazing. But yeah, so you don't just pay them for that 2 hours they spend with you. You pay for the editing time, the experience, and everything else. But it just feels like when it comes to churches, certain things aren't respected because it's kind of like, oh, it's just for the kingdom of God. But I'm like, okay, if you don't want to pay these people, then just be satisfied with the fact that you're not going to have the music that you're wanting to listen to.
Hmm.
And if you want to have all this glamour, all these lights, action cameras, talking drums, people doing guitar, or the most basically,
Yeah,
and yet you don't have the funds to pay for it, in the real world, we'll call that robbery.
yeah.
We'll call that you being a dishonest person. And I think, especially as Christians, we cannot be people who go through life trying to cheat our way through it. Like, you
Hmm.
can't try and cheat your way through life and under the guise of church and then use God to kind of make it seem okay. That's not okay at all. And I think it's, as Christians, it's important for us to have these discussions, because I've seen some backhanded comments from Christians
Oh yeah, talking about
about,
backhanded comments. We'll go to the next topic after you finish. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I think it's important to pay. Didn't Jesus not say pay Caesar what Caesar is owed?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Yes, he
if
did.
someone comes to you and you're like, oh, if Kirk Franklin was, if it's ask Kirk Franklin to come to your church, and then he now does his performance, I don't know why he'd ask for the money after rather than before. But
Hmm.
imagine you were like, did you not bless the Lord? Did you not worship the Lord? You worshipped, and we're just here to see you worshiping. So why
Yeah.
do we need to pay you? You would absolutely not do that. But
Hmm.
because these people maybe don't have the same range in terms of like popularity, you
Yeah, but
would then do
everyone
that.
starts from somewhere. That's the thing. That I can even imagine sometimes the musicians aren't even asking for astronomical fees. It's just some churches are just refusing to pay to
He
begin
said
with.
£60.
Yeah.
That's not a lot.
Nope. Nope. That's less. That's not even some people's tithes at all. Not even close. So you know,
Uh,
it's just yeah, it's just interesting to hear a pastor even speak like that. Um, yeah. So apart from that, I guess, like you said, backhanded comments, Mister Mike.
Before we get to that, working from home, we have to keep this real. I need to turn on my laptop charger. You be okay with that?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'll be back
Go
in a few
ahead.
seconds.
Yeah,
And you get to see my cute jumpsuit if you're watching on YouTube. Ooh.
yeah. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like I said, I guess we'll take this moment again to talk about our social medias, Twitter and Instagram. Um, but yeah, follow us, Second Nature Pod, Second Nature underscore pod on Instagram. That's where you'll find us most of the time. Engage with us, interact with us. I can't lie.
Comment,
Currently, our
share.
social media is really dry. You guys follow us, but you don't really interact with us. And I'd really love for more people to interact with us. Like in the last episode in 2020, we mentioned how we had someone from Sun Chen Ji someone who used to go to
Yeah.
Such and G reach out to us, and we helped them find another church. They said they listened to us and they couldn't believe what they were hearing, but it opened their eyes. So yeah, stuff like that. We really like to engage with you guys, even if it's just on a banterous vibe. You know, Christians can have a laugh. You
Can we?
well, you
Kidding. We
know.
can. We can.
But yeah, so as Aramide was saying before about backhanded comments, Mr. Mike Todd, can you step to the mic, please, as they would say in Clubhouse?
Oh,
Raise your
I wish
hand.
we had him. No, he'd go straight. Okay, you don't have an iPhone, so your experience of Clubhouse is quite limited. You don't just like if there's a room of people talking about you and you
Yeah,
enter that room, they will just instantly just ask you to come on stage to defend yourself. Um,
but
but
yeah, so
honestly,
Mike Todd,
all of the backhanded things weren't really being talked about on Clubhouse
no.
compared to Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is not the place for good dialogue. It seems like
Mm-mm.
anyone and everyone just says whatever they well, it's well, anyone and everyone can say whatever they want to say. And sometimes when people say things, it's indicative of how they feel, not actually of the situation of what's going on. So obviously, Mike Todd did a sermon, and there was a lot of water. I think the building was flooding because of the rain. Um,
Noah's Ark.
there was a lot of
It was a
water.
pool.
Yeah, it was a pool. I mean, when I
And
first seen
and
it, you know
the
what I
pool
did? I
wasn't a mess
looked.
to clean up. The
No,
pool
it
wasn't a
wasn't.
mess to clean up.
It wasn't
I was
indeed.
told.
When I first seen it, I just scrolled past it because I thought, oh, this is just what Mike Todd does. I actually have nothing against him. I don't really have anything against the word that he preaches. It's just sometimes the theatrics of on the stage can be really crazy to me personally. But I do understand that he reaches people who aren't necessarily me and people in different spheres and circles of life. Because I always have to remember, who is he speaking to? Um, he's not obviously everyone's cup of tea, and for people to sit there and to go on an absolute mad one, doing critical analysis, doing point evidence explain over sermons. If he has said something that is actually heretical and that should, make him step down from his position, then fair enough. But he's not doing any of that. It's just
No.
people have a problem with what he's doing on the pulpit. Um, Now, people would say that the Bible just needs to be preached and preach that alone. You don't need to add all the extra stuff to it. But I believe he's preaching to people who are not saved or new Christians who might need more.
Mm,
Now, as you continue to grow, you'll think, oh, I don't really need this. I just need the word. Like me and Aramide would have probably reached to those points where we feel like, no, we just need to read, we just need to hear more of the word being preached
yeah.
solely. Just a man standing, or a woman standing on a pulpit, and then that's it. Nothing else. That's good enough for us. But yeah, what do you think? Because obviously you were in that clubhouse room, and his brother was in that room as well. So
Yeah. I think before we even go into the clubhouse room and discuss what was going on there, we actually need to first say what riled people. So if you've been on social media, you may have seen, I hope you haven't, but you may have seen the silhouette challenge,
ooh, put your
which
hands on my show.
it's ruined that song for me. A lot of songs have actually been ruined for me.
Like the
Um,
Bussy challenge, yeah. Since the last episode, a lot of sexual challenges have
I was
arisen,
about to say, it seemed that this
and I wouldn't
lockdown,
talk about it until I seen Christians participating. So
I hadn't seen Christians participating, but I don't follow that many people on social media. But I think it being lockdown 3.0, it's winter. It seems like everyone's in a relationship, and I think
mm.
people are just going through it. And so you've seen this rise of sexual
Lockdown lust,
challenges. Yep, you should do an
lockdown
episode on
lust.
that. Lockdown lust. It's killing our people. And so you then saw this rise of challenges, the Busset challenge, which okay. Um, I was just impressed by how strong people's knees were.
Yeah.
And then because mine clicks, I don't.
Oh, so you're saying that
um,
you tried it?
no.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
actually have issues with money. Please, I didn't try it. Why? Um, and then a silhouette challenge. And if you've not seen the silhouette challenge, it's basically you might have someone same as me just standing here, and then I think I've seen like one or two, and then it kind of goes into this weird like backdrop thing where the light is red, but you can only see the silhouette of the person standing in front of you. And in those silhouettes,
And they're
the ones I've
naked.
seen, no, not all of them are naked,
They're
but people
naked.
would naked. They would dance explicitly, and some people were naked, some people were masturbating.
Hmm?
There's been all sorts, yes, and that was of a man.
Excuse
Um,
me?
yep. So it's not just women. There was also men participating as well. It was
I
just a
never said woman.
mess.
I never said
No, no,
woman. It's
no.
Mike
I'm not.
Todd that said woman.
I didn't say that. But I didn't say that though. I didn't say that. You said that. See,
Right.
you're just trying to find ways to
I'm
persecute me.
just trying to clarify that right now. Okay.
Yeah.
The views
Um.
of Aramide are of Aramide alone and not of Jure. Unto in the Second Nature podcast. Thank you.
Goodbye. And so it was just very, very, very sexually explicit. And the thing is, when I initially saw it, and I was like, "Ugh, the people in the world are gonna do the things that the people in the world are gonna do. You know, that you
Yeah.
can't stop them from
So we don't need
worlding."
to be shocked by that. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't shock me. And when it shocks people, I was like, people are finding more and more ways to be naked on the internet for free and have it justified. Um, okay, and I was like, cool,
OnlyFans.
whatever. Except people pay for that one.
That's
And so
true.
I understand that there's monetary incentives behind that. But the ones doing it for views, I struggle to wrap my head around it. Not saying that if you have a monetary incentive, it's okay. I'm just saying I can understand the rationale.
Where the money
Where the
resides.
money resides, where the money resides. So when I then saw Michael Todd's, I just saw the clip. I've not actually seen the whole sermon, and I don't really watch him, not for any particular reason. I just don't. And I saw the water, and same with Jerry. I was like, "Ah, why do you need water?" And it reminded me of this old sermon that I saw in a commentary video where the pastor
Of a
had a
massive sofa.
trampoline and a massive sofa, and I watched the sermon, and it wasn't really edifying. And I was like, you have a massive trampoline and a massive sofa for what? So when I saw it, that was just what came to mind. I was like, oh, maybe he's just, I don't know. It just seemed very dramatic, him stomping in the water, and that's just not my style of what I
Yeah,
like to watch. So I just
it
scrolled
was like an
past
R
it.
and B, an old school R&B video, like Usher and all them,
Bleeding
and
the
then
love, I
yeah,
keep bleeding. That kind of like
yeah, Leona
stomping,
Lewis, yeah, yeah, yeah,
hair swishing, you get me. And then I then saw uproar, and I was like, why? And then I saw another clip where he's talking into the camera. It's very cinematic, I have to say.
yeah. It was really,
um
really good. I thought this production, obviously, because we work in
Legit,
production, so I was like, oh, this is sick.
wow, the camera angles, who's holding that,
Yeah,
holding that?
that's
And
a steady shot.
it's so clear as well, because I would have been spitting, my glasses would have fogged up,
Like
but
he
like he
came
was
up
proper
close to the
talking.
camera at an angle.
Like,
I said, hey, what's that?
I thought it was very dramatic. And then I think he was talking to men. I don't actually remember what much of what he said. And then he was like, when he then spoke to women, he was kind of talking about how, you know, the women who are doing the silhouette challenges, they tend to be doing it for attention, male gaze. Just I don't know if he said that, but that's what I think. But actually, how if you want the opposite sex that you're trying to get to look at you, they're not even trying to see what's in your mind, because they've seen everything that you're holding there. Like, we can see all of your bits. So
Yeah,
there's never going to be that push to actually looking to see what's in your mind. So then I saw it, and I was like, there's nothing wrong with what he said. Personally, I feel that when women are talked about in church, it's usually from the lens of modesty and just, what are you wearing, how are you looking? So that's the thought that ran through my mind, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with what he said.
yeah.
Now, this upset a lot of people, and it seemed like it rehashed a lot of hurt that they've been through.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like Michael Todd was like the last straw.
Yeah.
Is it the last straw on the camel's back? There we go. And then
The straw that broke the camel's back.
thank you.
Yeah.
And it seemed then people started talking about how women's bodies are being policed in church, which I believe does happen. I
Hmm.
can't say it doesn't. It does.
Hmm.
People talking about how it's policed in church, about how we should speak more to men. A woman wrote quite a viral tweet about how church musicians have a
Spreading their
tendency
seed. Yeah.
spreading their seed throughout the entire congregation, and pastors don't have enough to say about it. But if you wear miniskirt, someone's going to think you're trying to get the deacon. And so you saw a lot of people angry, but it seemed like they were just using the Michael Todd video as an anchor.
Yeah.
But that actually wasn't the reason why they were angry. They were angry because of what they've been through.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there was actually a clubhouse room, like Jire said, that it was being discussed in terms of, is Michael Todd, I think the room was called, is Michael Todd doing too much? And it was actually interesting to see how, I guess you could say, real Christians, quote unquote, were having the conversations, because they weren't really talking about perhaps what the message was saying, but in terms of how it was presented, in terms
Mm.
of, is it distracting to people?
Mm.
Is this what, if then you decide to do a sermon that was very expository, in terms of they're just going through the word, would people remain engaged if
Oh,
they
yeah,
don't
that's a
have
good
all
point.
of the
Yeah,
likes and
yeah.
actions? And his brother actually came, so Michael Todd's brother actually came into the room and told us all about it. And I was like, good, I actually I have a better understanding of this church, the type of people that they're trying to get into the faith and that they're preaching to. So it was interesting to see the two different discussions, the one on Twitter and the one on Clubhouse, because Clubhouse is smaller, I guess. But on Twitter was just a lot of vitriol and a lot
Yeah.
of angry people
Hmm.
who want, yeah.
He wanted blood, yeah. And to me, that is a good point that was raised from that clubhouse, even though I wasn't in it. If he was to do expository preaching, how many views would he actually get? But I think Mike Todd has found his audience, and his audience are unbelievers or people who are in between and they're not sure, and new believers.
Yeah.
So he's just telling them the stuff that we as Christians have already heard. So people can get upset by that, and they can feel, they can have a visceral reaction to that. But some people have never heard that before, or they haven't heard it enough that it's actually been drummed into their head. Unless, because I do remember reading comments on Instagram of people saying, if Mike Todd had said that the Bible says XYZ, that's why I shouldn't do this, then I would understand. And my thought was, if you're Christian, um, if you need Mike Todd to tell you that the Bible talks about sexual immorality, indecency, and all that, the things of the heart, the wickedness, etc. If you need him to tell you that, to tell you to stop doing this silhouette challenge or the bucket challenge, then dear me, Lord, help me. Yeah, help me. Seriously, help me, because I wouldn't. I would say it's common sense, but obviously it's not common sense. When
Common sense is
lockdown
never as common as we
coming,
think it is.
yeah, we're in lockdown 3.0, like Aramide said, and people are bored. They're extremely bored. So if we're if we were all working and Mike Todd said what he said, well, I don't think Mike Todd would say what he would say, because I don't believe the challenges would even arise like that. If we're all working,
No.
it's because people are really just sat at home bored. I believe I seen a Christian couple do it as well, and they were
I think
kissing.
the Christians ones are funny, just because, I mean, I don't think as Christians we need to jump on every single bandwagon and everything going on social media.
Yeah,
But I think because, especially Christians, if you're on those, and I think especially when you're like scrolling through videos and videos and
yeah,
videos, it
yeah,
can just be easy for you to just be switching and not realize you're actually watching porn.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um and so I saw the Christian couples like, oh no, please, please, no, no, please, please. And then it then switched and you just heard them speaking in tongues. And I was like, if you're a Christian and you actually know you're not supposed to be doing this, that should help. You cannot, I don't believe as a true Christian, you can see someone praying or someone calling out on something on social media and then scroll and just continue to watch the porn again. But what this whole conversation brought to mind was actually something that I heard in another podcast, not a Christian podcast. And It was a bunch of women and they were talking, and it stuck with me. Was what one of the women said was, the church needs to find a way to present the gospel to the modern woman. And I was like, I don't, I don't. I don't know. I don't think that's true,
No, it's
but it
not true
seems.
at all. Because if
I
that's
mean,
the case, we'd be changing and switching in every era and time how it needs to be presented.
yeah, when I say presented, I don't mean like changing the word, but in terms of how the way things are said. But I was like, no, I actually don't think it needs to be changed, because it seems like a lot of the women, I'm not talking about, because men have their own, I'm not even here to talk about men, but like the women that were upset about everything, it just seemed like to they didn't want to be called out. They didn't want
Yeah.
someone to challenge them on their beliefs.
Hmm.
We live in this age of being an independent free woman, and that's absolutely fine. Woohoo for freedom. But that also means that you're still submissive. You still need to be submissive to the word of God. And
Hmm.
for a lot of women, it's kind of, that's quite difficult. The ones I saw on social media anyway, that's quite a difficult thing for them. And so it's kind of like, I want to be Christian and be a child of God, and I want to do these things that are not pleasing to God, and somehow I want that to be okay. I want everyone to think that's okay. And if anyone calls me out on it, that's basically hate
Yeah. Yeah.
and repressive. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not how it works. You can be empowered in abstinence, you can be empowered in modesty, you can be empowered in so many different ways. But it seems like our version of the modern woman's, quote unquote, Christian, the modern woman's version of empowerment is found in the world, when
Yeah.
actually the Bible empowers us.
Mm,
But I think it
amen.
just brought up a lot of
Amen.
hurt people.
Yeah, it really did. And even if Mike Todd didn't have the pool or the flood there, and he said that on the pulpit, people would still react, because that's what happens when you're calling people out onto righteousness. They're not happy about it, and people will sit here and obviously listen to us speaking and say, "Yeah, but you don't understand," etc., etc. And I do understand. Like, I get it. When I read people's comments, when I seen it, I understand. But at the end of the day, my feelings are important to God, yes, but God's purpose, God's will, God's word usurps all of that anyway. So what
Yeah.
he wants, what his righteousness and what his holiness is, it doesn't really matter if I believe that the challenge is justified or not. Like um like our mutual friend Mike always talks about, that we need to be aliens to this world. We need to be foreign, and we don't need to look like the world in order for the world to join us, because they'll be thinking, well, why do I need to join you if you're just the same as me? You're not
Mm.
different. You don't stand out. Um, but yeah, I think we talked about it enough. We could have got into Clubhouse a bit more, but Clubhouse is still going on. Um, it'll just
Yeah.
continue on. Maybe I'll have to buy like a secondary iPhone, but let me not lie, guys. Listen, I got myself a Samsung S21 Ultra Galaxy. Oh, when that comes in, mm, mm, mm,
Mm.
levels. But yeah, I
Mm.
might buy a secondary iPhone. If anyone wants to sponsor me, that would be great. Funds are tight, 2021, 2022. Some of us are
Give
trying
that
to get
money
married.
towards your church. Give that money towards your church. Tithe, offer, help someone in your community. He doesn't need an iPhone. He just got that one Samsung one that's got like 16 cameras. But as far as I'm concerned, all I know is that when you post on Instagram, we'll all be able to tell the difference. Um,
No, not anymore. But we're not going into that conversation anyway. So, um, yeah,
we will.
guys. Thank you for listening to that first episode of 2021. That sounded so
Woo.
abrupt. Someone might think that we've cut and paste that when I said, "Yeah, guys. Thank you for listening to the first episode of 2021." Uh, yeah, we hope that you continue to ride with us in 2021.
Ride and die.
Well, die to the flesh, amen.
Yes.
Crucify the flesh, and
Crucify it.
yes, consecration, amen, in the mighty name of Jesus. Yeah, so yeah,
Um,
continue to ride with us, help us grow. But it's not just helping us grow. I guess it's helping the community as a whole grow. If you ever want to come onto the pod, message us. We would love to have more people on. I think last year was obviously the year of amazing guests. This year can be the year
yeah.
of having people, that listen to us just jump on and talk. We've done collaboration episodes with other people, with other pods.
Yeah.
And it's always fun when you talk to other Christians around the globe or even in this country. But yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube, Second Nature Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Second Nature Pod. Follow us on Instagram, Second Nature _pod.
And if you have any different thoughts to what we discussed here, so if you are a Trump supporter, you want to share your views. If you believe that Biden is president through fraudulent means, and you disagree with us, let us know. If you've done the silhouette challenge and you're Christian, or you feel that, or you want to talk about how women are talked about in the church, or you just want to share your opinions, let us know in the comment section, and we're happy to kind of like have a whole conversation as well.
Yeah, even if you want to come on and talk about all that, we'll be happy to
Mhm.
have you on. Yeah, like I said, check out New Nature Clo as well. That's our clothing line, or kind of like the podcast merch. It's good stuff, man. Good quality stuff. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I got
Yeah,
one. I got a t-shirt.
Valentine's Day is coming. You wanna what you call it, surprise your
Bless your
significant
spouse.
other. Yeah,
Yeah.
bless your spouse, or if you're
Or your
single, you can
friends
bless it.
if you don't
Yeah,
have a
or
spouse.
friends, yes, or family
Yeah,
members.
family.
Yeah,
Valentine's is not just for people in relationships, it's for you
exactly.
to show love to the people in your life.
This is what Aramide says year in, year out. So yeah, guys, we'll end it there.
Oh
And
God.
with that, we'll say peace
Love
and all them things
things
there.
there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.